The first real event I remember was waking up in the middle of the night being sodomized in my own house. My fear of my father way, way, way exceeded any fear I had of what was happening to me. There was nothing left in me. I mean, I was literally a numb child, and I was numb for years and years and years, and it followed me long, long after those events did. You know, people talked about God as Father. Well, you know, I look back at the priest who was a father and the two priests who were a father, my father, and I say to myself, you know what? That's not a relationship I want any part of.
Welcome to Pure Passion. My name is Jonathan Daugherty, and I'm your host for today's program. Sadly, over the past decade or so, we've been subjected to a continual litany of reports about the sexual abuse of children by Catholic and Episcopal priests and other clergy. And for most people, there is no betrayal of innocence more difficult to fathom. We simply don't want to believe that it's true, and so we turn our eyes away from those who've suffered such unspeakable horror. We tell them it can't be true, or if it is true, that somehow it must be their fault. We minimize and lie to protect our institutions and choose to pretend it isn't happening. Today, however, we're going to look that truth straight in the eye as we hear from a man whose heart and soul were torn to shreds by this most devastating of criminal acts. His name is Tom, and he wants to be heard. He wants you to know what happened to him so that this doesn't keep happening to young children and teenagers, so that the perpetrators are removed from their positions of authority and properly penalized for their crimes. And most of all, he wants you to know what happened to him so that survivors of such abuse can find hope in the power of God to transform great tragedies such as his into something powerful and redemptive. Let's all learn from Tom's example of courage and his continued faith in God.
I think the first memory I have of my father was he accused me of stealing a nickel off my mother's dresser. And my punishment was he gave me a cardboard box, told me to put all my things in it, and he threw me out of the house. I was 5 years old. And I sat on the back steps and cried, seemed like forever, and till my mother let me back in without any, you know, we love you, anything at all like that. The message was, don't make your father angry. And that single event set me up for a lot of events that followed after that. I have virtually no memories of my childhood whatsoever. And every once in a while, a little piece will come back. And a lot of the pieces that come back are all built around abuse and abusive events in my life. The first real event I remember was waking up in the middle of the night being sodomized in my own house, and without anyone willing to protect me or to rescue me. And from that moment on, I knew that my house was not a safe place for me. And I knew that my father and my mother would not protect me. And I knew that I was kind of disposable, so to speak, and that the slightest thing I did wrong could end up with me just being thrown out of the house at any age whatsoever. And if they would do it at 5, they certainly would do it at 10 or 12 or 15. And I grew up one of 5 boys, and I honestly have no memory of whether my brothers were treated the same way or if anything happened to them. It's just a complete blank, that entire period of my childhood. And to get out of the house, I decided that I would kind of follow a family tradition of sorts and become an altar boy. I was raised in a Catholic family, and so I started becoming an altar boy. And in the beginning, it really worked really well, and it was a place where I could go where people seemed to appreciate me, and I was just Tom. And then one day, one of the priests put his hand on my shoulder and he said, "Why don't you come with me?" And we walked back into the rectory. And as I walk back into the rectory, I'm thinking, holy cow, I mean, this is just incredible. No one's ever treated me this good. And so we keep walking and we keep walking, and we step into a room. And he sits down and he tells me to kneel down in front of him. And he tells me to close my eyes, and he starts to pray for me. And then he tells me to open my eyes. And when I open my eyes, I find that he has exposed himself. And he then proceeds to do to me and have me do to him what predators do to little boys. And it would just, I mean, it just was a total, almost a mind destruction in some ways. I mean, I had no mental capacity, nothing to process what was happening. I mean, this was a man that my parents absolutely trusted beyond the shadow of a doubt. Okay? A man that my mother had times had said, you know, I want you to be like him. I want you to go into the priesthood and be like him. And so this process went on for a long period of time. I can't tell you exactly how long. Until one day we were in that room and another priest walked in. And the two of them essentially ganged up on me and raped me and forced me to perform oral sex on them. And this went on for a considerable period of time.